Chapter 5. Road Trip. Christine had always known the key to accessing the higher stratum of awareness, the realm where one could bend the very architecture of simulated reality, lay in a paradoxical state of mind. It emerged only at the convergence of excitement, fear, and tension, a singularity of emotion that opened the door to transcendence. She had trained herself for years to reach that elusive threshold. And yet, despite her experience, she could only reliably pierce the veil when her digital self was placed in mortal peril. It was ironic. In a world where death was no longer real, only its illusion could still provoke something raw and vital within her. In the cloud, death was not an end, it was a reset. A fall from a building, a bullet to the head, a car crash, none of it mattered. The system simply respawned you at a pre-designated safe point. True death required a deliberate act, the irreversible deletion of consciousness through a well-established procedure. Few chose that path willingly. In those rare moments where her avatar danced on the edge of annihilation, she glimpsed the underlying code, the branching timelines, the ghostly architecture of possible futures. But outside of those crucibles, the awareness remained dormant, frustratingly out of reach. That day, she decided to try something different. She summoned her car, a vintage convertible, a relic she had discovered in the archive of human nostalgia, and took to the open road. In a world where instant teleportation was the norm, driving had become a form of meditation. The rumble of the engine, the feel of wind on synthetic skin, the illusion of movement through space, it all evoked something primal. She headed into the desert, chasing the horizon under a sun that never aged. The endless road, flanked by arid plains and faded mountains, lulled her into a contemplative trance. Here, in the silence between thoughts, she felt something stir. After hours of driving, she pulled off at a roadside diner, a chrome and neon ghost of 20th century Americana. It stood alone, like a memory that refused to fade. Inside, the air was cool and still. A few patrons occupied the booths, a trucker hunched over a half-eaten sandwich, a young couple whispering across a shared milkshake, lost in each other's eyes. Behind the counter, a waitress moved with the practiced grace of someone who had repeated this day millions of times. The cook, unseen, clattered in the kitchen. Christine slid into a booth near the window. A moment later, the waitress approached, notepad in hand and a smile pressed into her cheeks.
"What can I get you, hun?"
"Just a salad and a soda,"
Christine replied, her tone light.
"And maybe a little silence."
The waitress chuckled.
"You got it."
Christine watched her walk away, noting the slight stiffness in her shoulders, the way her smile faded the moment she turned. As she passed the trucker, he reached out and slapped her backside with a loud, vulgar grin.
"Get me another beer while you're at it, sugar."
The waitress flinched but kept moving, offering a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. The trucker chuckled to himself, already halfway through his next belch. Christine's jaw clenched. She knew the system allowed for a certain degree of deviance. Criminal impulses weren't erased, only redirected. True sociopathy was filtered out. The upload process restructured neural pathways, ensuring that the simulation tolerated minor transgressions in the name of authenticity. Murders were rare, usually accidents, but abuse could hide in the margins. The waitress returned a few minutes later with Christine's order.
"Thanks."
Christine said, eyeing the woman.
"You okay?"
The waitress offered the same practiced smile.
"Just another day."
But Christine saw it then just behind the woman's eyes. A flicker, a fracture. That was when it happened. A tremor of awareness surged through Christine. The diner's walls seemed to ripple. Time thinned. For the second time outside of mortal peril, she began to see the echoes, faint silhouettes of alternative outcomes flickering at the edges of her vision. Possibility was bleeding through the seams. But it wasn't enough. The veil was lifting, but not torn. She needed something more. Then the bell over the door jingled. A police officer stepped inside, sunglasses tucked into the collar of her uniform. She greeted the waitress with a warm familiarity. The way their eyes lingered, the way their bodies angled toward each other, it wasn't just friendship. Christine felt it like a jolt, desire, unspoken and mutual. That was the key. A tidal wave of exhilaration surged through her. Her heart raced not just from the connection she'd witnessed, but from what it meant. The world around her stuttered, then froze. Everything stopped. Christine stood, The air was motionless, thick with suspended particles. The waitress stood mid-step, the officer's hand hung frozen in greeting. The trucker's mouth was open in mid-laugh. In the physical realm, Christine's consciousness surged, data streams overclocked, synaptic patterns in the server flaring like solar storms. In the digital realm, she moved through stillness like a ghost. She wandered the diner in silence, marveling at the frozen moment. Outside, the desert shimmered, untouched by time. Then she returned to the scene and began to rewrite it. She approached the waitress and gently unfastened 2 buttons of her blouse, revealing a teasing glimpse of cleavage. Then she turned to the trucker. She searched the diner until she found a holstered pistol hanging in the back room, probably a forgotten narrative prop. She strapped it around the trucker's waist. The pieces were in place. Christine returned to her seat and pressed play. Time snapped back into motion. The waitress turned, walking toward the officer with a tray in hand. The trucker's eyes locked onto her chest. A leer crept across his face.
Well, damn.
He muttered. His hand shot out again, this time gripping her thigh.
You trying to get me all worked up, sweetheart?
Sir, I need you to let go.
The waitress said, her voice tight but steady. He didn't. The police officer stood.
That's enough,
She said, voice sharp, hand near her holster.
let her go.
The trucker chuckled.
What's the problem, officer? She's into it.
Then the officer saw the gun. Her expression changed instantly. Her hand went to her weapon. Her voice became a command.
Put your hands where I can see them. Drop the weapon, now.
The trucker blinked, stunned.
What weapon?
He asked, confused, then looked down. The pistol sat heavy at his waist. Christine watched, heart pounding. The trucker's hand moved, slow and uncertain, toward the gun. He was still trying to understand how it had appeared. Was it a glitch? A joke? But the officer had no time for metaphysics. She fired. 2 shots center mass and head. The trucker crumpled, disbelief etched into his face even as digital blood pooled around him. Silence fell. The waitress stood frozen, shaking. The officer's hands trembled slightly as she lowered her weapon, adrenaline still coursing through her code. Christine leaned back, her lips curling into a quiet smile. She had done it. Not through fear, not through death. She had bent the world, and it had obeyed.